Oh, the story of this expedition. It's a 2008 expedition. Extra long land yacht version. 5.4 3-valve. Had a misfire. Customer went through and did coils and plugs and all the typical stuff that they do when you start coming into misfire on these things. Instead of diagnosing them properly, they just start throwing parts at it. And then we get a scenario like this. Like I said, customer attempted to replace all the coils and plugs, which he got lucky with the plugs, didn't break any of them, got them all out successfully. Coils, didn't change anything. Then decided to take it to first shop. Had them diagnose it, gave him this, that, it's going to be this, cam sensors, crank sensors, VVT solenoid, cam phasers. Tell him it was going to be all these things. And, I've looked at a couple of these things over the years, and it's always been something. Bad injector, bad coil, something, but this is the first time that I seen this. One of the other shops charged him for a compression test, which they said the compression was fine. So after all these shops touched it, 3 total, ranging from, like I said, bad VVT solenoids, phasers, sensors, clogged cats. So he wanted the cats removed, and so he, made his way here. And I told him I wasn't going to fix the issue. I told him it was either going to be, could have got a bad coil still, even though it's new, or, it's going to be internal engine damage, or a bad computer. I've seen bad computer cause the same situation, where it'll isolate a misfire to a particular cylinder and keep throwing the code. And so, I told him that I wanted to do a compression test first. He said that a shop previously charged him for a compression test. These are, not too bad to get to, but for people that aren't used to these Triton engines, they could be a pain in the ass. Especially this particular 3-valve, which has the smaller spark plugs. You have to use a 9/16 socket to get these. In turn, the compression tester adapter to screw into the cylinder is different. Most compression testers, unless you buy a specific adapter or you buy a new one that may come with that particular adapter, other than that, my old one didn't have it. So I had to, if I can find it, which I had to make out of a old spark plug, I had to make an adapter. So I broke a spark plug apart, drilled out the inside, cleaned it up, welded it to one of the existing compression tester adapters that I did have, for 2 reasons: to get compression test, and later on I'll tell you. But the compression test yielded pretty good results all along bank 1. Bank 1 had anywhere from 120 to 160. I have it written down over there. But so bank 2, 5, number 5 cylinder, it had 120. I get to number 6, nothing. Try it again, nothing. Pull the compression tester out, stick my finger in there, nothing. Just to make sure my compression tester wasn't being funny for some reason. So move on to 7 and 8, boom, 120, 135, boom, boom. So let the customer know, look, compression test yielded no compression in cylinder 6. I suggest removing the valve cover, inspecting for damage, maybe a cam follower spit out or something. I've seen that happen a lot when they get ran either dirty oil or low oil. Sometimes they'll spit a cam follower out. And so I take the valve cover off after the customer okays it, get the valve cover off, and first thing I see is a broken valve spring, cylinder number 6. After all these previous shops, especially one of them that, specifically charged them for a compression test. Wouldn't have found that. So, I told the customer, the car sat out here for a week. It's going to be a minute until I get to it. I'm busy. Whatever next week came, I pulled it in here, barely moved under its own power. And within one day, had it diagnosed. 2 hours that I had it diagnosed. Last shop told him, cats were clogged. It was going to be X amount of dollars to replace. I'll leave all the names of the shops out of this. But, so he decided to unbolt the cats and, see if that was the case. Unbolted the cats away from the engine, still ran like garbage. So then he found his way here, obviously. And like I said, I got it diagnosed in a day. 2 hours rather. But here's where we stand right now. Had a broken valve spring. For whatever reason, the valve keepers kept the valve in place. I don't know how, but the broken valve spring, which I'll include pictures of what when I took the valve cover off. Here's the broken valve spring. For whatever reason, it stayed. The valve keeper stayed in place. I can't say the same for another particular car. Sorry for your luck. They had the same scenario happen, and that valve dropped down into the cylinder, and it went south from there, you could say. So it's not supposed to look like that. Nope. So that's what usually happens. Now, like I said, for whatever reason, Powerball is pretty high right now. So I told this guy, take your butt to the store and get a Powerball ticket. But nonetheless, here's the spring, 2 pieces. It was all wadded up, sitting on top of each other like so. The valve was sticking, up to here, to where I could see the top hat and the keepers and everything. I don't know how them keepers stayed in place, because, like I said, this thing's supposed to be up, roughly that high, a little bit higher on a brand new spring. And I didn't have an on-engine, in-vehicle valve spring compressor. All I have is one that's off-engine, which I wanted to try and get a valve spring on it without taking the head off and taking the chains off and new head gasket and blah, 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 blah. So I screwed that same compression tester hose into the cylinder, applied some air pressure to keep the valve up, and sure as shit, valve sealed. So I moved forward. I ordered the tool, 2 days shipped it, which I ended up having to drive for the post office to get it, and that's another story. The compressor that I got is literally just to compress the springs enough to get the cam followers out. So I did have to modify it a little bit to get the depth I needed for it to screw down far enough for me to get the valve keepers in with the new valve spring compressed down. What a pain. I must have screwed with that thing for 3.5 hours and finally got it. Put the valve cover gasket back on, got it all together. Customer left the exhaust cut, so I really couldn't hear a whole lot, but when I fired it up, I could tell that it definitely cleaned up and that it seems to be running really good. I haven't done a compression test afterwards, so I don't know what compression. I know it has compression. I don't know what compression reading is for a number 6 cylinder, but it seemed to. I don't know how, but like I said, I told the guy Powerball is extremely high right now. Go buy some tickets, and I'm not joking. But here we are, 2013 Ford Expedition. First start up after I got it all back together and exhaust welded. Battery was off, so it's kind of relearning a little bit. But there, I mean, motor's not shaking to pieces like it was. It's idling very smooth. It seems to be doing really good. It's got the typical injector tick, 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 tick. These Triton motors all have that, but what a deal this thing was. I can't believe how lucky he got, because, you know, in most situations this engine would be out of here right now, and, you know, more likely they're putting a used engine in or replacing a head, replacing valves, whatever it be. But, you know, here it is. Seems to be running like a champ. Customer's gonna come around noon 30 today to come take a look at it and see if he wants me to finish off. He's got an aftermarket muffler he wants to put on, so might be putting the muffler on, and I don't know, we'll see. But there you have it. 13 Expedition, broken valve spring. Put a new valve spring on without taking the head off the engine. And got lucky. I wish I would have had a GoPro going through my whole ordeal with this thing, but you know, I'm gonna give it a shot at making some of these videos and possibly throwing them on YouTube and seeing what kind of feedback I get. So the kids have been bugging me, and you know, numerous friends have been bugging me for many years to do this, and who knows if I'd have done this 10 years ago when I was first getting harassed about doing it, where it could be. So we'll give it a shot. You know, I do quite a bit of work in here. You know, stuff of this, you know, to, you know, swaps, to crazy stuff like that, to, you know, just all kinds of stuff. My beautiful exhaust bender back there, whoop whoop. Shout out 1320 Summit Comp for making the best cams. But yeah, we'll see where this thing goes. Seems to be running really good and really smooth. Kind of leveled itself out on the idle. No check engine light, got a check brake system. We'll see what's up with that. But awesome. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see if I can throw some more of these videos together and maybe get them on YouTube. Start doing a couple here and there and seeing what kind of feedback I get. But I'll try and include some pictures with the initial damage that I found when I pulled the valve cover off. And it's been an ordeal. But thanks, guys. See ya.